Welcome again to This Month in Hamilton. Today is Tuesday, August 25th, and we're here live at a new venue than we've been our previous two episodes. We're here at the Hamilton Township School District Boardroom. As you can see, it's a little different behind me than where we normally come to you from the call center. Want to start out first, as we always do, thanking our sponsors. We wouldn't be able to have this show on Facebook and both on the radio without our sponsors, so I want to make sure we acknowledge and thank them. To my right, we have Dr. Scott Rocco. In a little bit, we're going to talk to Dr. Rocco about school reopening, something that impacts about a third of our township. When you figure we have about 12,000 public school students here in Hamilton, you add in another 1,500 or so teachers and staff, and then add in their family members and the like, you're talking about basically impacting nearly a third of our township. So want to make sure we talk about what's going on with our school district. We know many of you have kept up to date on the latest iterations of the plan. We know Dr. Rocco and his team have been very busy having to come up with numerous plans as well. So we want to make sure you have an opportunity to hear directly from him on what the latest plan is for our Hamilton Township School District. But as always, want to provide you first an update on where things stand in Hamilton, both with our COVID preparedness, our numbers, as well as different events that are going on in town. So as we always do, want to start off with our COVID number update. We are still averaging about 30 to 40 cases a week. We've been pretty steady with that number for almost 2 to 3 months, definitely 2 months, almost 3 months now. We've been averaging about 30 to 40 new cases a week. As you know, at our peak, we were averaging up to 35 cases a day, about 225 cases per week. So we've really now plateaued near, I don't want to say an acceptable number, but certainly a much lower number than where we were at. And we pretty much mirror the trends you're seeing in the state overall. We've unfortunately lost 175 Hamiltonians in total, but of that number, 125 were in a long-term care facility at the time they were either passed on or at the time we believe they contracted the virus. So that's 70% of our total COVID-related deaths are related to somebody who is in a long-term care facility. And again, it just really goes to show you how predatory this virus was to the elderly, to those with underlying medical conditions, and how out of all our cases, to have only then 50 deaths not related to a long-term care facility really shows you kind of the susceptibility of your average population. Yesterday, though, as most of you know, testing is such a huge portion of being able to get our hands and our arms around this virus and prevent its spread. So yesterday we put on our daily email update. We also have it on our health page under hamiltonnj.com, a listing of every place in and around town that is conducting COVID testing, and also some very important information along with that. One, do you have to be symptomatic or can you be asymptomatic to get testing? Two, do you have to be over the age of 18 to get a test? Some places require you to be over the age of 18 to get a test, and obviously as schools become more involved, even if they're not necessarily going back into the building, we want to make sure those who are under the age of 18 have the ability to get tested. And another big factor to consider if you or a loved one needs to get tested, the turnaround time on the tests. The turnaround times for most places are 2 to 3 days, but for some of them are up to 4 to 8 days. And so that really, the quicker you can get a result back, an accurate result back, the quicker we're able to do our contact tracing efforts and the like from the local health department. The quicker we can let other people know that they need to be isolated and stay away from others too, which again, just helps control the spread of the virus. So again, if you haven't seen that in our daily email, make sure you check it out there. But it's also available on our website under our health department. And there's a little link under a mask, and it'll take you right to an Excel spreadsheet that has all that information. So really important information we wanted to share with you that we compiled here through our local health department. Some other things that I want to just update you on before we get to Dr. Rocco in the schools. Obviously, as many of you know, Governor Murphy announced that this year's election will be entirely vote by mail. So what that means is similar to the primary. Everybody will get a vote by mail ballot, and you have a few options for returning those ballots. One, putting it back in the mail. Two, if you don't feel secure in doing that, there is already one drop box in Hamilton across from our golf or call center on San Melito Way next to the library, and you can pull right up to that. That box is under constant video surveillance and is emptied directly from Board of Election workers, so it doesn't actually even enter the mail system. That's another way. Or if you choose not to do vote by mail at all, we will still have some polling locations open in Hamilton that you'll be able to go in and fill out a provisional ballot. And obviously that ballot would be counted as long as they confirm you didn't otherwise vote by mail. So more information to come on voting for this year's election. Obviously we want as many people to vote as possible. That's how our democracy works best, when as many people as possible are participating in it. So more information to come on that, but wanted to, again, just touch on that briefly. Some of the events, we know you all look forward to it during this time of year. Obviously, National Night Out is usually the first Tuesday in August. That had been originally postponed to October, but has been outright canceled this year. We had a number of vendors who we were not able to secure for the October date, and just given the amount of people we normally get for that event, it was going to be very difficult, even outside, to do that event safely, and other towns are following, doing the same thing and canceling their National Night Out as well. We've already announced that we had to cancel Oktoberfest for this year. It's an event, again, even though it's outside, we get over 10,000 people at each and every year. So there was no real safe way we were going to be able to do that event. Two events that we're looking forward to trying to get done. Our September 11th Remembrance event is always held outside at the north entrance of Veterans Park. Right now, we're still planning on doing that event. We normally get about 100 to 200 people who come out for that event. The governor's limit is 500, so our sense is we'll still be able to safely put on that event each year with just some minor modifications. So our plan is to still move forward with our September 11th Remembrance event. And then obviously in December, we do our Winter Wonderland. And we're trying to figure out a way to have that event go on. Obviously, again, an outdoor event, but not as big as, say, an Oktoberfest or National Night Out. And so our health department, our recreation department are working together to figure out a way we think we can safely get that event to go forward this year. Some other events, we were able to do our paper shredding event in the spring, and our Public Works Department, again, is looking forward to doing that in the fall, so you'll see more announcements on that in the days and weeks to come. Our health clinic, through our health department, is still doing their vaccines and the other clinic appointments that they do take. Those are still going on. They've been going on all summer. So if you're somebody who uses our health clinic, our local health department clinic, please call them and arrange for your appointment. And then something new this year. We're partnering through our Hamilton Alliance Against Substance Abuse, or HASA, with Olden Pharmacy to do a Narcan distribution for free for anybody who believes they need it, either for themselves or for a loved one. So more information to come on that. That'll be around the middle of September. But really happy to be partnering with Olden Pharmacy and the Hamilton Alliance, again, to get Narcan to those people, their loved ones, or those who may need it themselves. Because obviously we've seen, and we just saw somebody pass away last week, that the struggle for many still continues, and in fact, because of the anxiety, the stress, that the pandemic has brought on, it's become even more difficult for some people this year. So again, want to just give you those quick updates. But really, we know many of you are here watching because you're concerned about what's going on with our schools. You have kids in the school district, maybe you're a professional in the school district, and we want to bring you as direct in a way as we can from Dr. Rocco so he can share exactly what's going on. So want to first have Dr. Rocco, if you can just introduce yourself a little bit. I know you're here in Hamilton yourself, and just for those who may not know anything about you otherwise, except for that you're the superintendent, if you can just introduce yourself a little bit to our audience.
Sure. Thank you, Mayor. And as always, I want to thank you for doing these sessions. We've been doing this since early March from your office originally, and we've continued on and done a number of these to inform the community and get information out, so I want to thank you for that. So for those that don't know, I am the superintendent of schools. I started in May of 2017. However, I'm not just the superintendent of schools, I'm also a resident. I've been here for 22 years living in the community, and I've raised my family here. My wife and I have raised 3 children here. So my daughter, who went through Hamilton Township Public Schools, has graduated, and she's now in her sophomore year of college, just started today, her classes. And then I have 2 boys. One is a senior in high school this year, and one is in 8th grade this year. So all of our children have gone through public schools in Hamilton. They've been involved in sports and activities and different clubs and different events that have happened throughout the town, and we love the town. My wife and I, when we got married, we decided to move into Hamilton. Before that, we both went to the College of New Jersey, so we weren't far from here and knew of the great things that happened in Hamilton and the parks and the activities, and so we chose Hamilton to be the place where we would raise our family, and so we've been here ever since.
Good story, I'll say the least, at least from a TCNJ graduate myself as well, so who learned of Hamilton that way and the great things that this community offers. So happy to definitely have you here, and it's been a busy 3 years for you, to say the least, I'm sure.
There's a lot going on.
Yeah, and kudos, I know, to you and your team. You've had an interesting summer, and before we started, I feel bad for you. You haven't even been able to take a vacation day, a full vacation day throughout the whole summer. So again, it just shows how much you're working. So I believe the Board of Education met either last Saturday or 2 Saturdays ago. What was it?
Last Saturday we met. We had a what we called an emergency meeting because the Wednesday before the governor had announced some more information about schools and opening and related to his checklist, and a new checklist will be coming out, but where you are in that checklist. And so just to kind of go into some specifics so that the public understands, back on June 26th, the governor and the Department of Ed's then commissioner, Dr. Repollet, issued a road back, which was the information that school districts needed to develop their plans for reopening. And within that booklet of information, there were 4 different categories that we had to develop information about, revolving around 3 scenarios. So the 3 scenarios were fully open, fully remote, and a hybrid model. And what I want the public to understand is that system of developing that plan was designed so that at any given time, school districts could transition from one of those options to another. And so as a result of that, we are prepared for 3 different options, and I can go into more detail about what that means for our school district and why we had that meeting on Saturday morning.
Sure. So we're going to take a break here in just a moment, so we'll get to that detail when we come back from break. But I guess you said June, the first kind of guidance came out.
Right.
How quickly, I guess, did you start planning even before that moment or after that moment for all these different types of scenarios? Like, how long have you guys been preparing for this?
Well, we've been preparing for the summer. We've been preparing for September since March. In a normal year, we are preparing for a full open, normal opening with our students, and we start that in March, start scheduling high school and middle school students. And so we were starting to think about what September would look like back then. Really in May is when we called on the community to be part of 6 committees that we had to design the opening. And I have to tell you, our community, our staff, our administration, our faculty all came through. We had lots of people on our 6 committees with a nice view of different different roles in the community so that we could develop a plan that was pretty well-rounded.
And then how many times have you had to change, I guess, or shift focus a little bit?
I don't know if, I think people think we're joking when we talk about the fact that things change every day, and sometimes multiple times a day. And so the governor is announcing right now, as we're filming this, what the budget is for the next 9 months, and what will that impact have on schools. And I'm hoping none at this point. But we'll know, when we're done filming, I'll know what's happening here. But things change multiple times a week, and we have to be flexible. And I know that that's not an easy thing for our families at all. And so we try to do it in a way that has the least impact when it's possible, and sometimes that's not possible.
Dr. Rocco, if you can just tell the audience a little bit what was decided by the school board at that August 15th meeting.
Yeah, so I'll take one step back and talk about August 3rd. On August 3rd, we actually presented the plan to the Board of Education and what those 3 scenarios are that I talked about in the last segment. And so talking to the board, saying that, these are the different scenarios that we will implement based on the environment at the time. Our goal would be to open up as a hybrid model, right? So that's the ABC model, where we take the student population and we divide them into thirds. And just kind of going back to give everybody the foundational information to understand why we had the meeting on the 15th. That ABC model, and I know there's been a lot of conversation among the community about why not do an AB model, do some other scenarios, try and mirror what some other districts want to do. Well, a few things. When you factor in how you're going to divide up the students, you have to abide by social distancing. You have to address the square footage in each classroom. You have to address the hallway widths, the stairwell widths for buildings that have multiple floors. And when you start looking at that entire scenario, including the cafeterias and the libraries, what you realize is, and we know this from our referendum, that our buildings, which are older, over 76 years old on average across the district, have smaller square footage. And so we can't get 50% of our students in the building on one day. So we have to go to a third of our students on any given day. And the question then becomes, and it's great questioning by our community, and I thank our community for asking these questions, is, okay, why don't you factor out the students who are saying they're going to go fully remote? And we can't do that. And the reason why we can't do that is you have to factor on 100%, because every child, no matter if they pick hybrid or remote, are entitled to in-class instruction. So if I were a parent and I chose fully remote, I can choose to send my child back to school at a later date. So I need to make sure that I have the spacing for students to come in. So that's one of the reasons why we went with an ABC model. Now, when a student comes into the building, they're there for the full day when we go to hybrid, right? So Tuesdays are A days, Wednesdays are B days, and Thursdays are C days, and then Mondays and Fridays rotate between A, B, and C. So on any given week, 2 of the 3 will have 2 days of school in the buildings, right? But everybody will be connected with their teachers through remote learning in the hybrid model. All of our students now have laptops, Chromebooks, and our teachers have Chromebooks also with cameras. So everybody has been given that or will have that by the end of next week. And I'll talk a little more about that. So that's the foundation of the structure. So we've got that in place. We've submitted that plan over to the county. And then the governor on the 12th came out on Wednesday and said, okay, if you are in this scenario, that scenario, based on supplies, PPE, preparation, all kinds of other things, you can start remotely, and then you have to have a plan to open up in the future. What's your anticipated date of opening up in the future? So we looked at where we were at. We looked at where we were at with our PPE, our supplies, our signage, those type of things, and installing all of that. So what we also know is, parents are saying, okay, tell me where's the issue here? Where's the logjam? Well, one of them is that most of us, school districts across the state, are ordering from the same supply chains, right? So we're getting materials from all kinds of companies, but very similar companies, or the same company that it's coming in and somebody else is producing it. So we are looking, we need more PPE for our nurses, for our isolation rooms, which we're required to have. We're getting additional antiseptic for our non-alcoholic hand sanitizer. So we're making sure we have tons of that. We're getting additional the spray guns to clean, to make sure that we can efficiently clean as we bring in our custodial staff earlier in the day, and some other items, including signage. Like our signage is now arriving and beginning to be installed, but it has to be installed at 24 buildings, right? So that's another piece of this puzzle, which is it's not 2 or 3 buildings like some districts have. It's 24 buildings. So in order to do that and take a look at where we're at and make sure that we've provided the healthiest and safest environment possible for our staff, we looked at where we're at, where things are coming in, what the install time is going to be, and we made the recommendation, I made the recommendation that we start on October 12th for our hybrid model, and prior to that, we go remote. And this will allow all of those items to be put in place. Now, between September 8th and October 12th, some of our students that have specialized program that can't be easily replicated, it can be replicated but not easily replicated through remote, we're going to bring those students in. It's a very, very small number of students. We have enough PPE, we are making sure there's signage in those areas, we're making sure all the safety precautions are put in place in the areas that students who need those services will have those services. But we want to be able to provide that service for students who need that now, right?
Now, if you're a parent and you think you have one of those students, are they contacting you, or are you contacting them? How do they know, like, hey, I have one of those students who you're considering would fall into this program?
Phone calls have started since last week from Student Services Department. So we are contacting parents. Parents have contacted our offices, but for the vast majority of students, we're starting remote with our students. They don't have specialized programming that they need. So we're reaching out to those families. Those phone calls continue as we go forward, and it will be spread out throughout the district. We're trying to have those programs instituted in the buildings in which students would traditionally go to, so that when October 12th comes, students that have received some of that specialized programming know the building, know the operation, know how to come in and out. During that time also, our teachers will be teaching remotely. Some, if not all of them, will be teaching remotely from their classrooms. Lots and lots of staff have said to their principals, said to supervisors that they would like to come into the buildings and begin to teach remotely from their classrooms. They have everything there, right? Our teachers, our staff, everybody did a fantastic job from March on teaching remotely from their homes. They were very creative. But most of the supplies and materials are in the classrooms. So that's really the basis of what the August 15th meeting was, is to give an update and say that in order for us to have everything we need to open up to address the plan, materials, supplies, PPE, things like that, we're going to need an additional couple of weeks to make sure that we have them in place and everything's ready to go. And so we looked at arrival times and install times, and as a result of that, we picked the 5-week time frame. I know other districts have picked other time frames based on their need, but I think it's important to understand that every district is unique. Every district has things that still need to be done, and so their time frames are different on how they're handling things.
Go back to the 24 buildings. Some districts have 1 high school, we have 3.
Right.
Some have 1 middle school, we have 3. And obviously, given the number of elementary schools, we have 2, right? And that all contributes towards what you're talking about.
Yeah, and that's a really good point, because when you look at the differences in our buildings, we have 17 elementary schools, we have 3 high schools, 3 middle schools, and they're all different, right? Some of them are kind of sister schools, like Grice and Reynolds look identical. They're the same buildings. Wilson and University Heights are the same buildings. Other than that, we've got elementary schools that have 1 floor, 2 floors, 3 floors. We've got some are 111 years old and some are 30-some years old, right? So the differences in the buildings is dramatic. And so it's not preparing one plan. It's actually preparing a base plan with 24 options, right, on how you're handling those things and how you're going to address one building versus another. And I have to give a shout out to my senior staff, the building principals and vice principals, supervisors, they've done a nice job in the logistics end of how this is going to work for our students and our community and our staff. And then also a shout out to our faculty and staff who have joined on in these committees along with parents to help us get a perspective of what it's like in the classroom and things we should be considering. So this has been a team effort since we've been planning, but on the 15th, we updated the board, and the board approved my recommendation to start on October 12th. From that point forward...
And we're going to, let's get back to this. Yeah, I just want to take a quick break and before we get into some more detailed information. So Dr. Rocco, when we went into break, you were talking a little bit about some of the other details, or about to start getting into some of the other details that the board decided on August 15th. So if you can just continue on going over that.
Sure. So the recommendation was to start in hybrid, except for that small portion of students that need a specialized program. The board had approved that. And from that point forward, what we've done is we've continued our planning, we've continued our implementation, we've continued the distribution of supplies and materials to our community, which I want to get into in a moment here. But the board has said that they recognize that where we're at and what we need to make sure that every building is completely prepared is going to take a little more time. And I understand that that can be a frustrating thing for our families. I understand that that can be a challenge for our families. And as I said in the beginning when I introduced myself, I have children in the school system. I understand that. I want my kids to go back to school. I know you want your children to go back to school. And I have to tell you that there is not a staff member in this district, faculty or staff member, that does not want to be back in school. That's where we belong, that's where we want to be, and that's what we're trying to do. And I think it will take some time. So we're going to phase it in from remote to hybrid. And ultimately, my hope would be sometime in the spring that we would be able to be in some type of full form again of school, back to something close to what we recognize as a normal set of activities for kids. I can't guarantee that because the virus does what the virus wants to do. But we are doing everything in our power to make sure that when we do go back, that we have every precaution possible in place to make sure that our students and staff walk in feeling more comfortable. But I also want to let our students know, our staff and faculty know, and our parents know that if you are feeling anxiety, if you are nervous, those are all natural. Those are all natural feelings. We all have those feelings. This is different for every one of us, even those of us who have been planning this for months and months and months. It's not our normal procedure. It's not the way we go about our normal life before COVID hit. But I want to tell you, we want to be back with our students, and we want to make sure that when we do that, that we have all the precautions put in place. And so that's why we've taken some time to get those in place to make sure we can open schools up in a manner that maybe also relieves some of that tension and concern that people have. So on that, even though we're starting remote, we knew that we were going to have elements of remote in our plan. In the hybrid model, you've got children that are going to be learning from home. So we've had to make accommodations and adjustments and programmatic things that have changed. During the August 15th meeting, and I encourage the community to listen to Mr. Scotto's portion of that meeting. He spent a good 45 minutes talking about all the curricular changes we've made and upgrades. We've invested a tremendous amount in technology and software for our students and for our faculty and for our families. We have many different software platforms now for children, and they're based on the age of children. So what might be a really good platform for a high school student to work on is not for a kindergarten student. So we have those programs in place for kindergarten through second grade, third through fifth, middle school, high school. And a number of parents have asked me, and it's a great question, and they say, well, how am I going to help my child with this software platform? Is it designed for an adult or is it designed for a child? And we say it's designed for a child, but that doesn't mean it's easy to operate for an adult, right? So, and we know that with our children with cell phones and all kinds of other things and apps and stuff like that. So what we are doing, and for our parents, we have a technology help desk that will launch on the first day of school. It will start at 7 a.m. with somebody from our technology department manning it by phone, by email, and through Google Meet, and it will go until 7 p.m. every night to help families. We are also working on some other programming to help children after school hours, and I don't have it formalized yet, but maybe on a future one of these I can talk a little more about
Sure.
it. But what I can do is talk about also is another way that we're going to be helping the community, and it's something that we've given you there. It's called the pop-up schoolhouse. And again, I'm open to different names of this, but here's what it is. About 5 or 6 times between the time we are on remote till we start hybrid, we are going to go around the community in different parts of town, and we are going to have a pop-up schoolhouse after hours. And it's not for instruction, but it is an opportunity for the community to come out, get tech support, get forms filled out, ask questions of building administrator, district directors and supervisors, and the superintendent. I'm going to be out there. Get assistance. Is your child struggling with something related to remote instruction? Is there an issue that we can help you with? And we want to go out to the community, because one of the things that we recognize from the spring and we realize is going to continue to happen is when you go remote, we're not doing this. Right? We don't do a lot of this anymore in the same room talking to each other. And so we want to go out to the community and we want to build that relationship back up, because we haven't had that in person since February. So the pop-up schoolhouse model will go around town and offer assistance to our community. You know, what kind of things can we help you with? What can we connect you with? And so there'll also be some community resources. It's not a large event, and that's why we're dividing it into 5 or 6 sections. So what we will do is we will say, if we divide it by 6, we'll say these 4 schools, we'll ask anybody that's looking for assistance in any of these areas, please come to this location. And oftentimes, it will be one of the schools. It will just be on property right there. Or if there's a central location like a park or something, we'll just pop up right there and we'll spend about 2 hours to help people. But this is a way to make connections, make sure parents get questions asked, make sure forms get filled out. If there's any problems or struggles or issues with remote learning, we're there to help at that point. And also, if somebody's having trouble with technology, we'll swap out some of the technology too. So that, you know, instead of them coming to us, we're going to you.
Is that similar to like a parent back-to-school night kind of thing that usually happens towards the beginning of the year?
Yeah, but smaller scale. And also, we intend on doing back-to-school nights probably virtually this year, but we're going to continue with back-to-school nights. We're also talking about how we're going to handle parent-teacher conferences. And that's an important element of elementary school, is making sure that our parents and teachers are talking about a child's progress. Now, it might not traditionally be where it is on the calendar. We're talking about that right now, but we will still have it, and it will probably be virtual also through Zoom or Google Meet.
What about kids who have after-school activities, whether choir, band, sports, all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, let me start with marching band, because that's been a conversation through some emails that I've had with families. I want our families to know I have all intent on starting marching band again. We are in the final stages of a plan on how we can begin marching band safely in a healthy environment. There's an aerosol study that was done by a professional organization associated with marching bands. And so we've been using that as kind of a foundational model of how we could build out a safe program for our students. But I believe our students, whether it's marching band, whether it's our musicals, whether it's our concerts or sports or clubs, student council, you know, all those different things, those are part of school, just like academics are, and we need to figure out, and we are working to figure this out, ways in which our students can connect and still do those activities. My hope would be, because it's remote, right, and a lot of times kids want to be part of a club or activity, but they have something else going on after school and they can't do it. My hope would be maybe we get more students involved remotely so that when we go back in, there's more students involved in a club or activity. How are we going to do these things? I want our community to understand we're going to make every effort to put many of these things, if not all of these things, in place, but they will look different, right? The whole year is going to look different, but that's okay. Right? It really is okay as long as we're working together and we're implementing things that engage students. So, so marching band, athletics, those type of things, student council, they're all going to be put into place. I also want our fifth graders to know we are also talking about safety patrol. So if you are a fifth grade safety patrol, we will have safety patrol this year. I know that is very important for our fifth graders. As a former safety patrol person myself, I knew how important that was. And I want our students to know, because sometimes that's what our students are looking forward to in the morning, to get up and go to school and work hard in class, because they also have this added responsibility. So all those different activities we will be putting in place. They just will look a little different.
Speaking of safety patrol, for those of you who don't know, the town supplies the crossing guards for the school district as well, and obviously those are on pause until October 12th, but we have every intention and are recruiting other new school crossing guards, because some didn't want to participate this year still, to make sure those are in place this year. Our SROs will still be in place this year as well in our 3 high schools, so we've had lots of conversations, our staffs have had lots of conversations for those ways in which the township can help, can contribute in ways we've done in the past and in new ways as well. So Dr. Rocco, we talked a little bit about different facets of the plan that the board decided on August 15th, the hybrids to start right now on October 12th, but what are some of the dates, does the board have to confirm that October 12th date? Is there a time where there's like a drop dead, yes, we're definitely going through, or we're going to change it? I mean, what happens now with some of those dates?
Good question. So I'll continue to update the board and the community on the status of our progress, but at this point, there is no indication that from our end that we will not open on October 12th. There are other things in play that are out of our control. So the state produces a weekly chart based on the 6 zones that they've separated the state into, and they're color-coded. So that will play into decision-making, and obviously the governor will play into decision-making on what happens in those zones or in each county or a specific district. So those are all things that are out of our hands. As far as the community should know at this point, our intent is, and we are preparing for October 12th. Some other dates, though, that are important to understand, if I can go through a couple things. So August 17th through September 4th, I want our public to know that we are handing out our devices to all of our students. We are now a one-to-one school district, and that has been a conversation that has come up a number of times. People have asked lots of questions. What does that mean? Does that mean we're truly one-to-one, or are we just saying we're one-to-one? We are truly a one-to-one district. We have devices for every student, and our pre-K to 2 devices are still coming in, right? So there's a lag when we talked about that supply chain issue. This is a prime example, but we are providing students in that grade range, if they need one, and they don't have one at home, we'll provide them an extra one, until their device comes in. But we are truly a one-to-one school district, and in normal times, non-COVID, we would celebrate this. This is a momentous step for us as a school district. We have, through the help of our tech department and many other people, we've modernized our school district from infrastructure to the apps and systems that we use to the devices that we now have available for faculty and students. So we are one-to-one. Devices are being handed out from the 17th of August through September 4th. Emails are going home, robocalls. Those are all through your specific child's building. So please, if you have a question, call the principal of that building. August 24th through the 28th, we are contacting families about programming if your child needs a specialized program, and if we are going to ask if you want to come in from September 8th through October 8th. So those calls are going out and are going out all this week. September 1st, this is a big day for everybody. Everybody asks this question. Beginning at 9 a.m. on September 1st, all secondary students' schedule information and elementary homeroom assignments are going to be available on PowerSchool. So that is September 1st. I want parents to also understand, and I know at this time, having been a elementary principal and middle school vice principal and doing scheduling in those two different levels, I know when that comes out, some parents want to ask if there can be a change. Can my child move homerooms? Can my child move from this space to this space? Aside from a programmatic change that has to do with academics, say a child should have been in an honors level class, but is not in an honors level class. Except for that type of programmatic change, we can't make changes this year. And I know that some parents will be disappointed with that, but please understand the level of planning, the level of complexity to this year's schedule. It's not one schedule, it's 3 schedules. And moving one person actually has a domino effect on many other people. And I know sometimes parents would say, well, my child doesn't know anybody in this other class. Having been an elementary principal and having 3 children of my own, I've been there, I know that feeling. But our children do make friends and they do make connections, and their friend group will expand. So I do ask the community to understand that our principals cannot make those changes, and that's important. But that will come out on September 1st. The 1st through the 4th, all faculty will be in for professional development, and so we've provided a professional development program that's not only about academics and some of the new software we have, but also about the routines and procedures associated with a healthy environment. What are the things that they will see as they come in, and the things that they'll get engaged in that are different than what school looked like last September. And then September 7th, school is closed for Labor Day, and the 8th is our first day of remote. And then that will go through October 9th, and we will start with October 12th as our first day of hybrid learning. Please refer back. I ask the community to refer back to my August 17th letter, which is on our website, that actually lists out the first 2 months of the ABC schedule. And let me clarify one thing for families on the ABC schedule. As we go forward with this and we get into winter and we have a potential snow day, if on a Monday or any day of the week, if any day of the week is snowed out because of a snow day, and it's an A, B, or a C day, whatever day it is, that day will just be missed. Now, I know some parents are going to watch this and go, but we're remote, why not just make it a remote day and not miss the day? I know how strange this sounds, but we have not been cleared by the DOE to do that, even though everything else will be remote. Are we trying to get that approval? Absolutely, we're trying to get that approval. But I also want to say, kids do need to play in the snow. So if it does snow, let them play in the snow and shovel your driveway and walk, right? So, but we're not going to be changing the calendar then. The calendar will be set with A, B, and C days. The days are the days. If a day is snowed out or school's closed for some reason and it was supposed to be a particular day, the day is just missed at that point.
Once you get to October 12th, is there anything additional or different parents need to pack with their kids? Masks, hand sanitizer, face shields, all those types of things that we hear about all the time.
Yeah, so we are going to provide every child and every staff member with a mask and a water bottle. We will ask parents, after they get the water bottle on their first day, every day after that, to fill the water bottle, bring it to school with them, bring a mask, wear the mask on, and bring an extra. We will have some throwaway masks if a child loses a mask, soils a mask, anything like that. And so, yes, bring your laptop or your Chromebook, wear a mask, bring an extra, bring your water bottle.
And what about lunches? Or is lunch kind of still normal how it's been in years past, or is that going to look a little different too?
It's going to look different. There's only going to be one option for students. We're going to ask as many families as possible to bring their lunches. For our families who are free and reduced, they will still have that. That will still be provided for them. But we're going to ask as many families as possible to bring their lunches. Students will still be able to buy drinks or a snack and things like that, but there will tend to, instead of having 3 options, there'll be 1 option.
And pre-October 12th, is the school going to be doing the food distribution like you did in the second half of last school year?
Yes, and right now, our planning and intention is to use the 6 hubs that we used through June. but more information will be coming out on the timing of that and the day. And the day may change based on the schedule. So that'll be wrapped up in planning in a week.
So Dr. Rocco, we have about 2-3 minutes left. Really just want to thank you for the opportunity to appear on the show today and provide the residents of Hamilton, the parents of Hamilton, and your staff who are watching, kind of a Cliff Notes version of all of the different preparations and decisions that you and the Board of Ed have had to make. I've said it to you, and I've said it to others. You've got a more difficult job, I think, than I do right now in preparing for how to keep all those students and staff safe. And you and the board have done a phenomenal job in it. And I know it's not easy, and you're never going to make everybody happy. But from where I sit, you guys have done a phenomenal job with what you've had available to you. So I want to make sure I commend you to that. But want to just leave you now with a minute or two in case there's anything else you want to talk to the residents about.
Sure. First of all, thank you, Mayor. As I said in the beginning, we've done a number of these, and this is important for our community, and I think this is important for us from the township and the school district, and also, commending you for your constant communication with me, support when we needed things taken care of, and you've done that. So I appreciate that. The town is better when we work together, and I appreciate that. So what I want to tell the community before we close is very simple. Few things. Number one, we've changed our website. So we are now htsdnj.org. And I want the community to know that that's the new website. That's also the new end of our emails. So instead of hamilton.k12.nj.us, it's now at htsdnj.org. Everything that we've put out is on our website. Every letter, every movie, every FAQ, anything and everything we've communicated to families is on our COVID page. So you can find that out there. It's also in 3 languages. It's in Spanish and it's in Haitian Creole, so it's available. And the final thing I want to leave the community with is this. As I've talked about us working together, and that is a benefit to the community so that people are getting information, I also want to say that the school district, as I said earlier, our intention was to open up, to be in person, to bring some normalcy to the school day for our children, our faculty, and staff. That mission has not changed, and it will not change. And as we move forward, we will do everything in our power to make sure that that is possible. But while we do that, we need to make sure that we're doing it in a healthy and safe environment for everybody that works and learns in our schools. And so sometimes that will result in a hiccup, a delay, a challenge. We can overcome those things. But what I've also said is over the last 6 months as a community, we have seen many of our community members from the township to parents to grandparents to businesses come together. And so we are symbolizing one Hamilton. And part of our strategic plan has always been to get to that point in 5 years. We are moving very quickly towards that. And what I would ask is the community to continue to work with us. I appreciate the feedback, the emails, the comments, and we will continue to work to get our schools open so that our students can feel like they're having some normalcy to their life again.
Thank you, Dr. Rocco. Again, you guys have done an outstanding job, and kudos to you and all your staff for doing it. I want to thank you again for joining us this month in Hamilton.